Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over this map. Oh shit. Something about a rainbow's end or something. I'm just going to put it up and you'll see it. Yeah, this was a more recent match. Recent, I mean like it was over a week old. Anyways, you can probably see Tordread and Rip, two high-level players on this map. And contemplating whether let's do the map analysis first, and then we'll go into COs. Of course, it's tier 3. I'm only going to cover tier 3 COs on this particular map. And sure. So first thing to note, this is just going to be from Red's perspective, just simply because it's 3 bases. They're all in this line here, and what that is going to mean for us is that development is going to be somewhat consistent from all 3 bases. So even in this one, you got roads, you got 1 forest, and for tanks, that's all that matters. Even for recons, I think it's relatively comparable. It might be a slight difference to the front line, but this one you're not going to be really making anything from the front line. Another notable thing is the airport, the position of the airport. It's more forward than the bases. Typically that gives you a little bit further of a reinforcement line, making copters a little more viable on this map, a little bit more valuable on this map, which for tier, we'll go in later, but for tier, why did I say tier 3? This is tier 2. For tier 2, it's actually, copters are very strong in general. So one thing to notice is that there is no HQ in this map. So that does, it kind of does 2 things. One, there's 2 comm towers. So if you lose one, you're still in the game. You're probably going to lose. Let's see, if Red lost one, he'd probably lose this one. If Brown lost one, it'd probably be this one, just because of it's slightly close to the line. But still, by the time you get one of these, you're pretty far ahead in my book, unless you did some incredible trade. But that's beside the point. Comm towers, not super contestable in this one. Anything else to notice before we get to the meat and potatoes? I'm going to say, I mean, one thing that you can see is these little cities up here. So this one's red. That's just to give a little bit extra income because there is no HQ. The HQ usually gives 1,000. One of the reasons you may not want to go with an HQ, but you may want to go with a lab, is that the labs don't give money, but the HQ does. So that's, so for in this thought, it's the thought process that you on this map that you may lose one, but you're still in the game, but they still want that advancement, and there's no way to get this, so don't even think about it. Does it even need, like, does Reds need to even be on this side? No. I guess it's just aesthetics, just a flex. Okay, so I'm gonna put up the reinforcement lines for Red. Boop. Oh yeah. No more going to a different screen. We got all in one screen now. Advancements, baby, advancements. Anyways, as you probably see, it's really close to the center line here. Hold on, I'm gonna put, let me just start for those who haven't watched my stuff before. Basically, red is the color of player 1, or is the color of player 1. Blue will be the color of player 2. The number indicated on it is how many turns it takes to get there. And typically I use triangles for tanks. So it's going to take a tank 2 turns to get to this front line. And this is what I call my reinforcement lines. Alright, I'm going to put up the one for player 2. This one. And so this is the matching line that player 2 would have reinforcements up to. So it would take 2 turns to get here. So the notable thing is here is you don't want to cross your opponent's line here. And the reason you don't want to do that is because anything beyond this point, this line, you can't see my cursor, beyond that point, this point, right, is more than 2 turns away. Anything inside this area is 2 turns reinforcement for them. So if you go beyond this line, that's 3 turns for your tank. In here, it's 2 turns for their tank. So if you can help it, you really don't want to go beyond that too well. So one thing noticeable about here is that it kind of gives this like little strip between these 2 lines in which there's going to be fights. And so what that tells me is that the contestable cities are going to be this one, this city, this one, and this one. These seem highly likely to flip or be contested. There's one over here that's between both sides that is somewhat, it's one of those, if you get it, you're probably not gonna, it's not gonna flip anytime soon. These ones also, you're probably not gonna be, once you get it, it's gonna be easier to defend than to recapture. And the reason for that is that, to look at these spaces. So let's say for this one for particular, right? You have a road for red, and roads don't give you any defense. And blue has this missile silo that gives you 3 stars, which, so if you all things being equal, who would win out in a long-term battle over this? It would be blue. So blue's most likely to get this. This one would be most likely to get red, all things being equal. And on this side, it's somewhat the opposite, because you have blue on a shoal. I would say that means less than over here, though. You could potentially go for the comm tower here. It's just, it's so in depth that just seemed like a horrible idea. One nice thing is that in this corner, blue has this forest to kind of hide units to, whereas red doesn't have any place to hide here in a fog map. Red does have this little tile to hide into, so that's somewhat helpful, especially with this one. So again, it gives red an even larger advantage here, and vice versa. Here, one of the reasons I say don't even bother going for the comm towers, yes, it's within blue's line. There's also these 2 forests which he can just plop down units and just be prepared for whatever you throw over there. So I expect battles to happen like here and here. There might be some over here. So yeah, I could totally see like here. Let's make like say a battle here. Battles here. Maybe some here, maybe some here. And I'll say maybe just slightly here is a slightly different front, just in case they want to switch things up or not fight on the same plane. Well, it's the same plane, it's just not the same tiles. In the center over here, I really don't expect anything. And the reason is because these are not very good defensive tiles at all. And this tower here, it just does nothing. There's no benefit into getting it. I mean, if you really wanted an additional building, or if like you're running down to the day cap and you really need as many properties as you can get, I guess. Sure. So there's that. The next thing I think we should look at is the airport reinforcements. So for red, it's going to be indicated by a black line. And so this is I could do little little shapes for that too, but I think it's easier if I just do this because this is more just a visual thing in terms of the relationship between air and ground units. Ground units I put a little bit more importance on the positioning, especially because the ground units aren't necessarily straight line most cases, whereas air units are typically a straight line. But as you can see, this red line is not only beyond your 2 reinforcement for land units, but it's behind their reinforcement for 2 units. So that gives you a little bit of a helpful push if you combine it with your army with air units. And then, of course, blues is going to be white. Boom. So they're also going to be able to encapsulate on that, and that's it being your line being beyond your opponent's enemy line is actually super helpful. Not that you'd want to, but it gives you a lot of maneuverability to play with, especially for copters. Copters' strength is being able to move around. You're going to be able to move around a lot. So pretty much all these bases are going to get on this line roughly around the same time. Of course, take that with a grain of salt. Like, this base is not going to be putting things over here. But this one's going to be able to equally feed here and here, and let's say getting this unit over here is going to be the same as getting this unit over here. Well, no, it should be over here is the same as over here, theoretically. So one thing to note on this is that there is somewhat a slight strong and weak side, and this is dictated almost purely by the air support. So if you look up here, there is no air support for blue in this area, but red has a little bit of support. So there's a little bit of a advantage here if you wanted to do that and do, let's say, a 2 strong, 1 weak side, you know, like 2 base airport. And over here, he had this whole section, he has like red has no air support. So there's that. What that kind of tells me in terms of unit positioning is that at some point, if I'm red, for instance, I want to produce a anti-air, probably on this base, maybe on this base, but to go over here to deal with this, because here I'm not going to be able to easily reinforce with copters. It's going to be an extra turn, whereas if I want my units to smash as soon as I purchase them, I need to use something that's a little bit more closer by. Okay, I think that's enough of that for now. We're going to go into the CEO choice. So first off, we're going to start with Max, the smash and grab guy. So you can read that. I don't need to tell you that. But basically, on this map, Max has great copters because he gets that extra 20%. This is a pretty open map, so artillery is not going to be plentiful, shall we say. They're going to be used still. Almost every player I've seen at a higher level uses them. Key things on Max is a very good all-around CO, but because of the tier he is, dictates how he wants to play. And he kind of wants to be a little bit more aggressive. He doesn't want to stall as much because the other two really scale better with stall. So for a Max character, what I would end up seeing, if I can just go back here, what I would anticipate is to be aggressive going for the cities, while, let's say, less aggressive CO would try to get him, but they're not going to waste too many resources getting them, because in the long run, he's not going to win against Max. Probably a lot of against Max, you probably would use, artillery, wait for him to try to bait him into this area, maybe in your lines, and then hit him and make him punish him for it. There's a lot of nuance to what you actually do. So I'm gonna shut up about that now because it gets really complicated and I'm not feeling like I'm explaining it super well in a very easy to digest way. So one of the best things about Max is that he's a movement based EO, and you could kind of say that about Eagle, but basically that 2 movement is very helpful if he gets his off first, because what that essentially does, going back to this, is that it would basically turn it into this, right? It would extend that line for his reinforcements by 2, and you get an extra 2 to go in and do damage. So as a counter to this, you'd really want to watch Max's CO power. And if he's about to get it or he gets it, but for whatever reason, if you know he's gonna pop it next turn, the thing you kind of want to do is pull your units back. Oh, wrong line. Failing it all. You really want to pull your units back so that, like, if you're blue, if you're, let's say, red, and he has his power, you really want to retreat, let him come into your domain, because then he doesn't get the benefit of having his reinforcements also be able to take a hit that same turn. You know what I mean? Like, let's say he already has units here. If you can get these units to come in over here to do damage, then he only has those units. But if your units are here, or let's say on your line, and he gets the damage, he gets his normal attacks, and then these reinforcements that are coming to him get an extra 2, and then come in to do even more damage. And I hope that was clear, because if you didn't understand what the hell I just said, I suck, and I can't really. I guess I can. Maybe I'll make another video that goes more in depth into this concept. Going back to here. Okay. I think that's all I can really think of to say right now for Max. Going on to the next one is Olaf, the only. So Olaf doesn't really have anything notable. He has 2 main perks. He has the global damage 2, which is very useful. This part of his superpower. I'm sorry. Take it back. So Max is the only one in this tier that is able to pop his power or his super. The other 2 want to pop their super. So you really have more versatility with Max in terms of, if you have an open moment to go in and smash and just destroy your opponent, you can do that. Whereas the other 2 really have to wait it out. So back to Olaf. He has 2 other aspects to his power. He has the 10% boost, which is helpful, which is why normally you do want to pop it and be able to go in and smash a bunch of things at the same time. And it's even more benefited by them doing 2 HP damage, so the defenses are even lowered of the units, and you're not going to receive as much damage in return. That's great. And then there is the snow. And the main benefit of snow is that your opponent's reinforcements are hindered. So if your opponent's reinforcement line, going back to this, let's say your opponent's reinforcement line is, let's say, now over here. He is now have a reduced reinforcement line, which means if you pop yours, do your damage, he doesn't have his full army ready to come and punish you. He can't punish you as much as he'd want to. That's probably the most notable thing about the snow. One thing I'm just remembering now is that Tordread has said in the past that Olaf also has good copters, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I understand where he's getting at, but he's saying that snow doesn't affect his copters, therefore they're good all the time. Really, they're not better than the other two, because the other two can actually do more damage. It's just that snow doesn't affect it, so he's not hindered, but that kind of goes for everything else as well. Basically, snow just hinders copters more than it does, let's say, tanks. So his snow is somewhat more damaging to his opponents' copters, and then in comparison giving him good copters. But like just for one turn, I wouldn't say that they're good copters necessarily. Well, I'm off my soapbox. Anything else notable? So, as you can probably imagine, that Olaf wants to use those three aspects to his superpower as many times as he can, because basically that's going to keep chipping and chipping away, especially when the match goes on and the unit count goes up. He's going to do more damage. He gets to chip away more at his opponent. More of their reinforcements are not meeting the front line. So as you can imagine, he just wants to really be stally against Max. Max doesn't want to let him be stally, doesn't want to let him set up. And so Max will be more aggressive. And then just for it doesn't matter, but we'll go over Eagle. It's going to be a light one, really. So Eagle, it likes to be even more stally, and basically the concept with Eagle is get as many vehicles out as you can. And basically be more stally. He has good air supports, and not only that is he has good defense, defense is kind of king in this game, because if you can just survive your units, you can heal them, they can be blockers, there's so many things that they can do. Yeah, if I had to choose a CO on this map, I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of in like a deadlock. I'm leaning away from Eagle into these two. You can't see my cursor right now. Into Olaf and Max. But at the same time, I 100% believe that any three of these are viable on this map. It just depends. It comes down to how you change the play style of those, right? Because some want to stall, some want to be aggressive. Olaf is somewhat in between. So Olaf, if you were against Eagle, would want to be aggressive. Olaf against Max wants to be very stally. Okay, enough of my bad descriptions of things. Shall we go into the game? Maybe, I don't know. All right. And of course, he's going to go back for the base. The important thing is that this is only helpful for lower players, so that this guy is going to get into this base in 2 turns. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 turns. This guy would take an additional turn to get here. So basically, if you're going to put a starting infantry on this map, you need it to be the prime base to send a unit over here, because that's what the opponent's going to do, and you don't want it to be too far ahead. For some reason, I thought I should say that. I'm just kind of skipping along to the first notable thing that happens, because openings, I mean, they're not super, I guess, noteworthy. So here we go. Rip opens up with a recon, and I like this. I like Max in Fog because you need recons anyway. And Max's recons are super good I think if you get one comm tower, I think Max can one-shot infantry on roads. And if he gets his power, he can almost one-shot them in anything. So very few COs can do that. Grit's no, it's not Grit. Grim can do it, but his recons are super weak to anything else. That's one of those cool things to know, especially because you need them. You might be able to harass early game a little bit more effectively. A little bit further, and Tordread opens with a tank. Very fine, because he's not going to be able to compete with... Now, he could harass Rip's infantry if he opened with a recon. The nice thing about a recon is give you a little bit more vision. But he can actually have an answer for the recon. Because Rip likes recons, to be honest. Max likes recons, especially on this map. So it's a good call. So one thing to note is that look what he does over here. He could go for the airport already, but no, he moves into the port, and that's important because it's further advanced. So the way the inn comes out, it's not going to really make too much of a difference if he goes down and gets this guy. But now that this guy captures, he can go in and capture more. He actually go down and get this cap right here and start this chain. And that gets him a little bit further along, because it's better to have units out here early where they can still capture. Because if he was let's say he went to capture this right away, this guy would take 2 turns to get here, which he can capture this now. And that's always worth something. And he opens up with another recon. Sure, he's Max. It makes sense. Pulls out the tank. Opens with an artillery. Wonder what he's going to do with that. Rip's first tank is going to be over here. This is probably where he's going to apply pressure. So this is the first thing that I get with Tordread that I'm going to go all the way and say I don't agree with. And the reason I don't agree with this moving is because he moved all the way over here. There's no way that he, based off of when he could have built a recon and how far he could get, or if he built a tank, his first item, and how far he can get, he'd still be about here. There's no real way for him to be able to get to him, to harass him at all, to get to any of these properties. And arguably, yeah, he could have moved forward or something, or it would have been much better. If his goal is to defend this, depending on where he is, or to use this artillery to defend anything, he totally has the money. He could have just started with the artillery, get a little bit further, and then if he really wanted the spot, if he swapped the build order to these two, he still could have gotten there in the same time. So I just don't agree with that movement. I think yes, over here, is he trying to defend these two? He should be really, I guess, over here or over here where he can actually see if there's someone on that base. Now that I'm thinking about it, he's assuming someone's going after, Rip's going after this. I don't know. Wait, one. Yeah, I would have moved this a little bit further or somewhere else. But I'm not Tordread. I'm not on the top of the leaderboards. What do I know? So one thing I do know is that what other players have shared with me and by watching other players. So Tordread wants to stall. If you do plan on stalling, you usually want to spread out your units a little bit more evenly than, let's say, focusing over here. And the reason for that is adaptability. So you kind of just, you're trying, you don't need the raw unit mass on one side just to take engagements. You kind of want them to go into your domain, punish, them do something and you punish, or you deter them from doing something. So you don't need, you can get away with your units a little bit more dispersed, especially in fog where they can't see you. So here's a good move. He sees these units. This guy can get into this next turn, so he covers that up. He doesn't want to use the infantry because the infantry can just get pummeled on the next turn, and then he has a damaged infantry that's not really going to get this unit, this city. He's going to go for this unit because if he goes, see right there, he caps it. This guy would have to give up the cap to do damage on it, or he could use the tank, but then he doesn't have the tank for other purposes. Based off of what Rip knows, he's gonna get this city. You don't want to get the aggressive player too much money to play with right away. Well, because if they begin with their good engagements, it's easier to just kind of snowball into a larger unit count. So yeah, Tordread got caught by that. If he had more units out here, perhaps he could investigate before sending that unit out. I think what should have happened is if he had his tank over here or over here, he could see if there was anyone on this. If you didn't see anyone on this, he's more likely to have his units over here. If you do see someone on this, he's less likely to have units over here. He's took a risk. I think it's a little bit riskier to put on these two, but perhaps it would be okay. Perhaps it would be less risky if you did that in terms of just sending out your unit. Because if you're stretched out thin here, he has nothing that's going to dissuade this recon. So he's starting to catch his comm tower. Another tank. It's taking his units a little bit longer to get over here. And, well, seeing how it's taking you longer over here, I think you'd want the tank over here. But that's just my opinion, man. Especially because you don't even have your tank over here.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
You in trouble. You aren't even far enough to capture any of this stuff yet. You know he's defending this stuff. You know, that long game of just, well, what would he do? So one nice thing, I don't know if he did this intentionally, Rip. I'm going to just go back a turn to Rip, see of the movement of this unit. So he could have gone 1, 2, 3. He could have totally done that, right? he would have been slightly closer to his goal. What he ended up doing was he put his unit here, and what that allowed, he doesn't use the full movement of the infantry. And I really like this. Igatula uses it as well, because you want to get vision of the city before you go on it. Because if there's, let's say, a tank there, you're rushing into that, and that's an extra space where you could probably just get... One, whatever on that city could probably take a crack at you. Two, that one extra tile could lead you to, another hit from a unit and just lose that infantry altogether. Secondly, let's say there's one on this position. He has, let's say, an infantry capturing this one. You just go to the next one. So he doesn't know which one to go to. He's playing it safe here. I'm a fan of that move. So here, I like it. Rip has 2 units over here. He has a unit over here that can go either way, really, if he wants to. And he has another recon over here. One, because he's shown this recon, and he doesn't know if there's a tank, he could lose that recon. He's going to want another recon. But also, he needs... He's keeping his units spread for now. And, cool. It's day 8 and he still doesn't have whatever. For the on most maps anyways, you're not going to be making units right away because you sacrifice other units that you might need more. Here's kind of... Wait, did he move his unit off of that? I could have swore Tordread had a unit on here. Maybe I'm just smoking it. No, I moved back to see the placement of this unit, that's why. So this guy now captures. Again, he is kind of creeping this up, and that's great that you're doing it nice and slow. But also, it's been like 3 or so turns, and these guys still are not threatening a single unit. Like this guy right here is not good bait because he's already captured that. You want to do a unit that's not currently captured, well, that is not captured, but is about to capture something. So it could be in the middle of a capture, like let's say this guy, he has a little C, or it could just be a lonely guy like this. Hit him so he doesn't go over and start capturing. Sorry. Moving on. So he makes more units over here. And he makes a recon over here. I hope he sends this recon up. He needs more units over here. Because his infantry... There's already contention with capturing over here. And Rip's looking like he's going to get cap. He's going to have an easier time fighting for caps. Here, he hasn't started capturing anything. And he doesn't really have any support. He has this tank, but... Really, my thought process on this is you don't need to go left to hide it. You could probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're at that point. Because let's say he had a tank on the same turn. Because you're player 1, you're here first, he's here. And then, based off where your infantry are, you'd get a first hit if he messed up. So I would not hide that. I would be pushing more towards here, and besides over here, if I move my tank, it's a little more versatile. It can get attack over here, or it can attack over here. I have a little bit more options. Sure, you're going to see it maybe a little bit easier if you had recon, but this early, he's not going to waste a recon going into this far into your domain. So it's not like you have to sneak it. That's my thoughts. So he's moving this recon in a little bit. Little surprised by that, but okay. He's pulling the recon back, good. He knows he's not gonna, he probably has some units out here. It's not worth fighting over. Just pull back, let him have it. Once he reveals his hand, then, swipe and punish. Now this is interesting. He goes double tank, and he skips a base. So he values that tank more so than, let's say, an extra infantry. If you're gonna break the rules, you need to have a good reason. Maybe to do some smashing earlier, because units now. I don't know, maybe it'll pay off. He's threatening that city now. Ripper already pulled away. You can see these units. What I would end up doing is, Rick, is I just go in and capture this, support this, and just keep these well occupied and defended. Those are my thoughts. So here, again, he's only using a maximum of like 4 of his moves, which part of my thought is that, like, with your tank, you want the first move, the first 6 should be going as far as it should. The next should be kind of doing the same up to that front line, and maybe around it just giving up 1 or 2 just to get in a forest. Here, it's still not doing any good. You could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and have it plop down right here. Yes, it would have been seen, but now you have a threat, and you got something that can actually do something. Because right now, if he comes in 1, 2, like, there's not a ton you can do. There's just something about his playstyle, Tordread's playstyle right now, that I'm not getting. That doesn't make sense for what I understand to be the context of a game like this. And the first battlecopter, not bad. And he opens with I really think he needs tanks up here. So I think his thought process is Max is going to have tanks. Keep busy with these and then use artillery. Two hang-ups with that. One, even as Olaf, you need recons. You need recons for artillery because you need to be able to hit vision of your enemy's units. And then you still need tanks to do for the movement and the damage, because tanks are going to get to the front line a turn faster, and that extra movement once at the front line to be able to punish is very useful. You need more heavy hitting units over here, just because by now he could have several vehicles over here, like a couple of vehicles, and having 1 tank is not going to be enough. If this was like a smaller map or something, I think this strategy could be very viable. On this one, I don't know. Or at the very least, the same thing as over here. This tank has not done anything, not done jack. So realistically, you could have made the artillery first, get it over there, make a tank later on to go over and reinforce it. He's being really defensive of these units, and I don't know, I don't get it. There goes the first hit. He is stopping the cap. And then he's gonna put a unit on there? No, he stopped 2 captures. And this is hard because now there's 2 tanks over here, and he doesn't have anything to stop that. He just let it happen because he left his units over here unreally supported. So yep, he's pulling away completely out of here because he knows he doesn't have units. He's gonna shift over here. Maybe this guy's gonna go for it. This guy right here, go for it. Go for it. Fine, we'll watch some. He just stopped. Fine, don't go for it. Takes a shot over here just to stop the cap, just to delay it. I like this because in order to stop this, you either have to use this guy. He's probably not going to get this in the long run because of that move. He does build an anti-air. That's good. You can never have, on a map like this where battlecopters are strong, you can never have too many anti-air. I don't know the thoughts, but I think the anti-air are going to be really effective for infantry as well, potentially. But you're going to want a plethora of these out there. Was it this side? What side was it? Yeah, he's probably gonna want it on this side. If he can, this whole corner is probably going to be the best place to have it. Although you could also slightly be tempted to use max copters just to smash. Because that's totally a thing. You could just raw dog it, just raw power hit his copters. It wouldn't work so well against Eagle, but against Olaf, you could do that. I would do it if you're in a pinch. Or you could spam copters like I sometimes do. It sometimes works. Does it work all the time? No. No, it does not. So this is somewhat good. He's going after this now because he sees here. He's anticipating him going after this. But also, wait, let's go back. He's probably going to go after this. So 1, 2, 3. I don't know, man. Like, get it in a position where you can attack this infantry. Like, get this guy here or something. Because in there, you're too far away from the action to really be a threat. These two units haven't really taken any hits. They haven't done anything. They were made early on, but they haven't stopped anything. They haven't deterred anything. Because even over here, as soon as he saw the guy go away, he knew there was probably a unit there, so he backed off. He didn't even see these, so they really haven't done anything. Back to over there, he's going for the cap. He could stop it again. Probably will be enough. Oh yeah, he could definitely get 3 damage on that thing. There's also a recon like right here. But he doesn't have vision. Actually, no, he has vision of that, yeah. He could totally stop that cap. So another thing, he moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He moves his copter over here. I understand you don't want to keep it hidden because copters that are hidden are a little bit more of they're overall better because you can just get a sneak, like, oh, a surprise attack. But at the same time, you're wasting that movement here, which even if you just stayed here, I know it's hindsight, he wouldn't have been able to see you, but you're still two units closer to the front lines where all the fighting is going to be, and you're moving your units back, and I don't understand this play. If someone out there does, please explain it to me, but I'm straight up baffled by it. I'm sure there's a good solid reason, and there's probably a great situation where that is one of the optimal strategies. I just don't get it. And he's going with the battlecopter again. And he has 4,000. So he's definitely going for the battlecopter purely so we can have higher unit count. That's all right. He's doing it so he can attack the tanks. That's my thought process. Because his tanks are going to take damage from a max tank. So, from what I understand, I think he's going for using the Battlecopters against the tanks because the tanks will receive less damage from the tanks. It'll be a little bit more of a good trade. Although that's easily rectified with copters, max copters of their own, as well as anti-air. So yeah, get copters out there, but spamming them is not going to be a long-term strategy. So this I like, although he can see you, but pretty much if you go out here and attack, you really don't want to be attacking on here, and because there's nothing over here. Of course, you don't really need to capture this anyway. But let's say if you attacked him with a recon or something, you could always move away, come in with one of your own tanks and do some damage. And then you're attacking on a property versus something that has zero stars. So I like that positioning. So right here, it doesn't look like Rip's going to go for it. I'm going to be watching this. I think he wants Tordread to take it, and then he punished Tordread. I mean, yes, Tordread wants to stall, but not being a visible threat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not being a real visible threat doesn't necessarily help. There's an art to stalling that I suck at. But pulling some units back. So let's just do Rip's overlay of reinforcements. So you see where his reinforcements, all his units are right now? They are on his side of that line. So if Tordread wanted to come in and do damage, he'd have to cross that line and be subjugated to what they call in the Discord extra tanks. The concept of an extra tank. I think that's worth a small. I'm either going to make like small videos of those concepts, or I'm just going to make like YouTube shorts of those concepts or something later on. Just because I think a more like they're worth their own explanation, and I can actually give more thought into explaining those things. So. And let's just put up Tordread's line. Tordread's also on his line. So both are smart where they don't want to cross it. Theoretically, Tordread would win out from stall. Issue I'm thinking of is that there still has to be small engagements. And if you let Max build up too much, because Max has the income advantage, you let him, if he maintains that for too long, he can build up a stronger army, and then when he does punch through, if he punches through first, he can deal more damage to you than you'll be able to reciprocate on that next turn, even with the super. This is one of those cases where Max might actually want to, depending on where his opponent's meter is, you might be able to get away with popping on normal. On second thought, it's going to be more nuanced than that. Forget about it. Moving on. After I take this overlay off. So he's going to get... He went for this city. I doubt he probably doesn't think he's going to get it. Yeah. What this does do is it baits his opponent. So what's about to happen now? Okay, let's go back. What's about to happen now is that he's going to take off these units. He revealed all those units. He can now fire on these units on cities, which is going to be hard to dislodge, especially if you don't have adequate firing power. this move up here where he joint caps, I understand why he did it. I just don't think it was worth it. Because I'd rather have a 1 HP unit just lying around. It's still going to take over 2 turns. So it took 1 turn to cap, next turn can get it. You could have moved this guy off for something, put him on, I don't know, put him on a base or something. And then put your new unit on, start capturing. True, he's probably going to get a hit. But now you have 2 units to blockade. It's not worth... It's usually not worth sacking your infantry for temporary income. Don't sack your infantry. Learn that from this guy. Rip. Alright, moving on. Artillery. Artillery's not really in range to do jack shit. Again, he's making small movements here. I understand why you make small movements. You want to clump up your units, but at the same time, this guy is not in range to hit any of this. I still feel like because he's Olaf, he's waiting for Max to just plow through. Both players, though, are trying to tempt each other into going in and then smashing. The issue with stalling for your power is that you do have to take engagements. And I think in this case, Rip is just being a little more patient and is a little bit better at baiting. Because one of the biggest issues, and D just talks about this a lot. Basically, over here, he used 2 units to go hit these, and then he's going to leave this empty, probably. You really want to put a unit on top of this, so you can't get that defensive bonus. So you'd have to... The issue is that he doesn't really have any good units to put up here. Any unit he would put on those cities would just be cannon fodder, like a recon. What's that recon going to do to a tank? You don't have any tanks to put up on these units. You do have a lot of artillery. You're not going to put those on those units. You don't have your copters put on the units. And if they did, you're kind of opening yourself open to, 1, copter on copter violence, or anti-air, worse. So Rip has a slight advantage here because he's max, is that he can sack a few infantry to bait into someone who's probably going to go, whose best option is things other than tanks to fight your tanks. And you can get into positions like this where you're just gonna drop a unit down and do some damage. So he's taking units away from here and pulling. Now this is one completely in hindsight, but you do still want units over here. Because look, Rips is a little bit more evenly spread out. He's prepared to go do anything he needs to. And each one of these is still in reinforcement range of each other. Basically what you could do is it allows you to... Not having enough units out here means you can't do a push. So let's say you do a retreat here, you can't push. Ideally, if you push somewhere, you want to retreat somewhere else. If you're going to retreat somewhere else, you're going to do a push on the other side. So if you have these 2 fronts, you want that ability right here. It's just going to... I feel like he's just going to stall out because he doesn't have a lot of units. I mean, you're defending this comm tower pretty well, but again, these units aren't doing any damage. It's been... Was it 5 days and they've not seen combat? It's not good. And he moves that tank out of there. He's kind of forfeiting this front, which is a real shame because he's actually not doing well in the capture right now. More artillery, and he's finally making more tanks. See, boom, he just shoots that guy, moves out that. So it's a blocker. Now that 1 HP is a blocker. He's not just wasting it. Doesn't care about the capture. He's attacking the infantry, right? Because he's never going to get it because he's surrounded by enemy units. He's never going to get the capture. But he can make sure his full HP unit gets a sizable chunk on his opponent's infantry. And then if his opponents have few or no infantry, then how can you capture? I like that. Finishes him off. Goes in the forest, finishes the recon. Recon hits that. See, like, even the recon did pretty good damage against that artillery. So yeah, he could hit this. Maybe it was worth it. Because he gets rid of 4,000. He does... Possibly. He didn't know these guys were out there. Actually, no, he knew those guys were out there. I think this guy can get out, and then when he retaliates, he can get in. Oh, that's a great trade right there, because he's on a shoal. That is actually doing super well. Look at that. Just all that damage out here. And he's prepared for the next retaliation, because if you go over, these go out to attack, he has these 2 units to go fight the copters. That is a great move right there. And finishes off his vision. Goes in for that tank. There you go, gotta send something in there. And I don't think Rip would have pushed in here if he didn't have these 2 units. Because these units, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's going to be able to hit both of those, even without his power. Yeah, he can hit both of those. So he's opened up both routes to both copters. A little bit of a shame because he went this this configuration. He can't finish off this copter, but yeah, it's probably a bit more defensive. These units could probably survive a little bit better over here. So he's gonna finish that guy off. Move the tank. Now, this tank just seems to be here for defensive purposes at this point. He's trying to Rip, I think the next turn is going to try to pull back. So yeah, he's pulling the rest of his units back. So to some extent, Tordread's probably going to get his power, almost certainly going to get his power this turn. But look at his units out here. He doesn't have many units. He has infantry against these. What are they going to do? He does have a tank. Let's see. 5, 6. You could take out this tank and maybe hit another tank. But he has many. Even then, he could still do some damage to you. So now you're using it, which is fine. Wait, hold on. What did I just do? Hold on. Screw that up. Okay. I gotta be more careful when pushing these buttons. So he uses Winter's Fury. It does a decent amount, but if he doesn't finish this turn with more unit value than Rip, then that's kind of lost. And by lost, I mean it's like it's maybe not worth it. The one thing that you kind of look at Rip is that he did position a lot of units on cities, which is beneficial for him, because then it's going to be a lot of money, but then he can heal back up, because he's going to want to be able to do them at full power to, you know, wall break. So he's definitely going to get this city now. He's going to be, although Tordread has kind of gained a little bit, he's not going to gain as much as Rip, because Rip's going to get this one. He's going to... Maybe it's worth stopping this one. Delaying it a turn, maybe. I don't know. Don't throw away your units for a little bit of money. Unit count's more valuable than just raw money. And it's harder to build that back than unit value. Bunch more tanks. Important is he pulled back. He is in this line, and he does have a slight total unit lead, even though Tordread's been making a ton of copters. So the only areas where he still has his units is where he's defending this property. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have the vision to formulate a proper plan to get at this. He could easily get a hit on that and stop it. Two things though, if he did have vision, he doesn't have vision to properly stop it. Even if he did and he did stop it, there's an anti-air right here that's going to be healed up next turn. This copter is going to get hit next turn. There's no real way. He doesn't have an answer for the copter, even if he could see it. One of the thoughts is, as Olaf, you also have to anticipate that Max is good copters. You need anti-air. Your copters are not an answer for his copters in this case. So plenty of anti-air to deal with whatever comes. Yeah. There's that. Boom. You're stopping that. Again, you didn't put a unit on top of it. And you kind of just pushed forward without vision, so you don't know what's already over here. And if he's smart, he trapped it. So this guy, boom, hit there. I guess use your guys to take out this one right here. No, you can't use that. I don't want to waste the copter on hit on this. I'd rather use it on something more beefy. That's just my thought. Also, you have to keep in mind that you can't push too far forward because he's going to get his super. And so that line that you have to hide behind where you position your unit should be a little bit less, right? You don't want to push it. At the same time, if Rip doesn't use it, you're also in some extent, it's Max has the ability more so than Olaf to kind of wait and choose when he uses his power. He can just hold on to his power until he sees a good opportunity, which go for it, honestly. Don't just waste it. Make sure you can get a solid whack at your opponent. So he's balling up. Is a good idea. We're gonna see what Rip does. Because of course I'd be tempted to go in here. Again, here's a great positioning, so he sees a bunch of infantry. Yeah, he puts his recon down here so he gets vision. He knows there's nothing over there. He can hit it. This guy is probably going to get it unless he... Oh, with the tank. Yeah, if it was another infantry, these other infantry could have hit it, but no, with the tank, he knows there's nothing down there. And this is the issue with just leaving this down here, is that you forgone this and you didn't get this. You have to really push and get this if you're going to do something like that. My thoughts as a lower ELO player is that if you're gonna stall, you want to defend this a little bit more. Right now, it seems like Rip is doing a much better job at baiting Tordread in there and punishing him for extending, which Max is arguably a good. It's a good strategy for Max because he can punish quite effectively. So he just pulls back. He wants his opponent to get into his domain, as well as having to have Tordread play around his power. That's it's an anxiety-ridden thing. Okay, so he goes in to fight the recon, but also you're sticking these 2 units out here. Are you going to move more units? You have to be careful because you don't want to just sack your units, especially because no, he is. Has he made units yet? No, he's not yet made units. He's starting to get the unit count back up. Most of them are copters, though, so if if Rip plays well with the anti-air, he can just destroy you. I want to see more anti-air because a lot of Rip's units are also consists of, because he's arguably still has a lot of infantry, and Max's battlecopters are really good. They're really effective. So you're going to want to answer them. Now, in hindsight, and you can see this kind of in the map, is that Rip doesn't have a lot, so maybe he called it right. I play a little more adverse to such things, so boom, stop that cap. Even on a city, it brings it down to 4, which is the power of Max. So what this tells me is that he doesn't intend on using it this turn, his power. Because there's no reason he shouldn't just popped it at the beginning and just went in. So you can see he's preparing a bunch of tanks. He made a bunch of tanks the past few turns, and he's been driving them in. He's pulling back over here, which again is great because he knows Tordread doesn't have anything down here. Wait, what was it? So hit the copter. Not a bad move. Joint caps again. Now it's 4, but at the same time, that little bit of money doesn't help. Does the extra bit from not? I don't know. I don't see it as valuable, but that's just my opinion. Finally, he has an anti-air. It's still not in a good position to do anything. Okay. That's fine because he didn't need the power. Pops Max Blast. And this is gonna be good. That was an okay trade. Opens that up. Boom. Boom. Just pretty much annihilating his tanks. Not caring about the guy in the capturing right now. What was that? Use that to just destroy. See, that's the one caveat. Usually you don't want to just waste your anti-air picking off infantry, but if it's for breaking a wall of infantry, Well, then it's very beneficial because the units that you need to worry about are typically in back. I'm going the wrong direction. So he moved this guy here just to get vision. What he possibly could have done if he needed it was just sack the... Oh, he still wouldn't have vision on that. He can't afford to sack it. Just destroyed that. He still has 2... Oh, he's going to get another tank hit. He has another tank down there. Will that tank do anything? Tank's going to get on there and hit the one on the city. That tank's going to hit that one. That is such a blow. Look at all those units. Sure, he has some copters, but he's going to get 2 hits off of that and then be subjugated to either the battlecopters if he didn't use his copters against them already, or he's going to get hit by the anti-air. He has no solution for all these tanks. At this point, this is an overwhelm. Even when Olaf pops his power and attacks into this is kind of overwhelming. It's going to be so much that it's going to be able to overcome this. This is going to be okay because he is the overwhelming unit count. And what that will allow him to do is maintain those cities long enough for it to actually affect his build order. So he can get stronger units out. What's one thought I have is that Max generally, his power is going to scale with the amount of tanks he has. So he really wants to make as many small tanks as he can. Maybe what could have been beneficial, and this is a maybe, don't take it with, the entire salt shaker. Maybe Tordread needed more tech ups. Like, let's say, because if Tordread, let's say, techs up, then Max is probably gonna have to tech up. Max rather be making more smaller tanks than more medium tanks or more neo tanks, because then his power is going to scale better with more tanks. So maybe that's a viable strategy in this situation. There we go. An anti-air, helicopter, recon. He has enough of the basics of just tanks, so these items make sense. Vision, never have too much vision. Anti-air, you can have plenty of anti-air, especially because Tordread is probably going to keep pumping out copters just to try to keep his unit count afloat. But at the same time, if Rip keeps pumping counters to that, then that's not really going to be viable in the long term. In fact, you're going to be losing money faster than if you just made tanks. So Tordread is really going for that Winter's Fury. So here's the thing, yes, he has the Winter's Fury, and he did a pretty huge chunk of damage. He's still 20 grand under. And look at these units, they're all 1s, 3s, 5s. He can still be decimated by this. What would really... I'm just gonna say I think he's lost at this point. I think the game over, but pretty much ideally you'd want to pull back and have these fight for another day. But I don't really see a great option in which you can do that. These guys are just gonna get decimated next turn. You're gonna have like no army. Look at that. You're nearly 10 below him, and all these are gonna die. He's kind of long. I would have given up at this point. That's me. So Rip pulls back, and honestly, Tordread should not go pushing that. If anything, go right. If anything, go right, because he has no units there. So you're pushing into that. Oh, there you go. You're actually moving your units over there. I feel like you should have done this after the first big push from Rip. Because ever since you lost a couple units over here, you've been keep sending units in, and he's already had advantage, but because he keeps having advantage over here, you're losing out more and more. You should have moved over or done something else at some point. I think swapping over to this front, being the first to initiate that swap, could have been beneficial. Have some defensive units still here so he doesn't feel as if he can push, but then go over here, fight him, and take some of these. At this point, I don't see it. I don't see how you can do anything. Like there. You have to keep in mind, because let's put it on. See, you're still in that area for reinforcements. And boom, right? You put a bunch of units in that way. You know he has more units, and because he had them a little bit more spread out, that's what really does it. Because they're spread out, he has the versatility, and if his opponent did front switch, he can deal with that to some degree. So especially with the anti-air being on this thing being kind of spread out, if he front switched with these, he could just go in and take a pop at it. Usually like 9 times out of 10, that is a very beneficial thing in the long run, just to, even if you just sack it, just to take out that copter. Especially before that copter does any real damage, because until then it got an infantry, so who cares? If it got a hit on a tank, now that's an actual concern, but it didn't. Finishes that off, stops that capture. Now he can't put a unit on there, but yeah, okay. But at this point, he's far ahead. So yeah, he's got these two, which he's not going to be able to stop. This is snowballed. He knows there's no one over here, so he can pull back over here and prepare for what's coming. So yeah, you hit the recon, but keep in mind, you're on the city, but keep in mind though, you're still in that area. You're already down units. He's not foolish. He's going to front shift and just, again, there goes the Mang's infantry over here, not really supported by anything. You're not going to get that. Sure, you're crawling more and more into his space. I don't know. From after that max blast, I just don't feel like your heart's in the game at this point. Because yeah, you've foregone this area now completely, and he knows it. Unlike this area before, he knows it. He's actually, the reason why he probably didn't push, Rip probably didn't push in this area, because he had the upper hand here and you kept pushing into it. And so he just went with what I would have considered a good standard practice, standard play, whatever you want to call it. Now Rip, if he really wants, he does have his max force. Sometimes I get the two names confused. Yeah, that's a ballsy move. That one not so much, because you protected it with infantry. Now He should have popped it before, right? He would have done more damage and received less damage from that. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he just got excited. Sometimes that happens to the best of us. And, you know, people like me who we're just here to have a fun time. I feel like Rift's being reckless, but at the same time, I would be reckless in this case too, just kind of throwing units at it. Two recons. And Tordread designs. Yeah. After that one, definitely. But, like, really, I didn't see it from that Max Blast. I just don't see how it works. So, I think the two big things was that he kept pushing his reinforcements into a front that he initially he failed. I think that was the big one that kept doing it, and what he really should have done is front switched a little bit sooner, a little bit out here maybe, and started pushing elsewhere, especially to get it in. You wanted to get Rip into a reactionary state where you were reacting to him the entire time because you kept he was here, you knew he was here, you pushed forward. I mean, this is just a little. I'm going to describe it as a peeve of mine. It's just like the movement and like those units weren't. You had units just sitting here, and then you moved them over here. And you had units that weren't doing anything for a while. Whereas, at the very least, if they weren't going to do anything, they could be spread out, ready to be utilized elsewhere. Well, you know, to some degree, that kind of helped me out a little bit because I'm kind of adverse to choosing Max as a CO, and that kind of helps open a light into how to play him and how good Max can actually be, especially for me understanding the build order, because your opponent is probably going to want to build battlecopters and anti-air more and artillery more. They're going to be not wanting to build as many tanks, because tanks on their tanks fighting your tanks is, all things being equal, is going to be a losing battle for them. So they'd rather have battlecopter points than not. So you want to maintain a decent amount of battlecopters and anti-air, but you also want those tanks for when the power comes around. So that works for any indirect. So. Yeah, I would say that maybe Max is a little more difficult to play around than I initially thought, especially because he can use both his power and his super. It's a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more on your toes, especially when this first power just comes around. He could pop her, or he could hold on to it, or he can hold on to it his super. Whereas I want to say Olaf is probably the least likely one who wants to hold on to a super, because with global damage you want to keep popping it as many times as you can, versus the other ones, if you can do the same amount of damage without it, then there's no point in doing it. Like, if you can still kill the same amount of units, then there's no point in using it, and just hold on to your power until you get a better situation where you could actually, like, let's say, wall break and actually change the tide of the game. Well, I hope that was very educational for you. For me, I was looking forward to it because again, both of these players I've followed, I've watched, I've learned things from, and it's good to understand, like, to get a chance to see some good executions of some certain tactics. I would say Rip's tactics were a little bit more on point in this match, just probably due to like the CO matchup or something, or there's something Tordread was trying that I just didn't understand myself. It wasn't on my brain wave, you know? Okay. I know this one was a little bit long, but thanks for watching. Didn't understand myself. It wasn't on my brain wave, you know? Okay. I know this one was a little bit long, but thanks for watching.